Okay, it's Focaccia time here in Alexandria. So it's 8:45 a.m. I'm going to take you through the steps. Here I have 1 pound of flour. I use King Arthur bread flour, but you can use all-purpose if you like. Just don't go like cake flour or anything. To that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. I use kosher salt. If you use the table salt, you can probably get away with about the same, but maybe do a little bit less. Maybe like a teaspoon and a half or something. This is optional. This is baking powder. I use 1 tablespoon, but you don't have to do that. Not mandatory. Oh, and let me get a spoon here. Ooh, hold on. And I'm just gonna mix that up just to combine it a little bit. I can take this off the scale now. By the way, in terms of the flour, to get that, if you don't have a scale, this is about 2.5 cups of flour, so that'll get you about 16. And then what I'm going to add is my sourdough starter. So here I have some left in the jar. See that liquid on top? If you see that, don't worry, that's totally normal. Just go in and give it a stir. I'm going to put the phone down while I stir. Alright, so I'm back from the stir break. So I'm just going to pull out, I don't know, probably about 2 tablespoons of the starter. By the way, I've taken the starter just like right out of the fridge. I haven't fed it, and it'll work like that. If you want to feed it before, you can. The rise will go a lot quicker. You'll have a little bit better result, but you don't have to. I'm lazy, so I'm not doing this before. So I'm going to do just one more just to make sure I get about 2 tablespoons worth of the starter. So this is where all your yeast is coming in now. So you got flour, salt, yeast, and then we'll need to add our water. So for water, I have 14 ounces. I think that should work okay. Just about 14 ounces of water. Let's see how that does. And you just kind of stir it up, and it should get all combined. No kneading required. We'll do some stretching later, but you'll see it's pretty easy. The consistency you're looking for, it's going to be pretty wet, wetter than like a normal bread dough. If this is too wet for you, you can get away with a little bit less water. You could probably do like, I don't know, 13 ounces. It'll just be a little harder to stir, but this will give you kind of those like really big bubbles in the focaccia if you like that. If you like a nice wet dough. So make sure that's like really well combined. I'm probably gonna stir a little bit more after I turn off the camera. And what you're gonna do is cover this. Leave a little space for air. You can use a dish towel on it. I have this little cover here, but there's like a little space for air there. I'm gonna let this rise inside just to see how it goes. The hotter it is where you're rising, the quicker it'll go. The colder it is, the slower it'll go. So if you're trying to rise and you're not seeing activity, try to throw it either outside, or a trick you can do is if you turn the oven light on, but not the oven. Don't turn the oven on because you'll cook your bowl. But see how that oven light's on? The oven is now going to be a nice 80 degrees, and that's actually another good place for it to rise if it's not hot outside or if it's wintertime. So, all right. So again, it's now 8:49, so it's been about 5 minutes. We'll check in later and see what this is doing. Okay, so it's 10:55, so it's been about 2 hours. The focaccia train is rolling. You can see some activity. You can see there's like a little dome almost around the end. It's like kind of convex. You see a little bit of bubbles there, and it's kind of jiggly and frothy, so it's just starting to rise. So don't worry about the time too much. I mean, this is taking me 2 hours. If it's hotter, it could go shorter. If it's colder, it could take longer. There's really no set time. You got to let the yeast do its thing. But I think we're ready now. We got a little bit of a base here for doing some stretching and folding. And you don't have to do the stretching and folding part. It builds better structure. If you weren't going to, I'd let this rise a little bit more until it was like really bubbly and frothy on the top. But I'm going to show you what I do. First, I make sure my hands are wet or else they'll stick, and I'm going to try to do this holding the camera, but you kind of grab underneath, you don't put your hand in the dough, and you kind of pull up and pull over. Then turn the bowl 90 degrees, and you're going to get another chunk. Use both hands, kind of pull it up, stretch it from the top. See how it's breaking there? That's how you know the dough's not ready yet. It shouldn't break when you do this, and you'll see this later on. I'm going to put a little more water on my hands so that it doesn't stick. I've turned the bowl 90 degrees. Again, reach, don't like go straight in, reach around the side. You don't want to pop all the air bubbles in there. So kind of get underneath it, give it like a gentle stretch up, and slap it over the top. Rotate the bowl one last 90 degrees, a little more water on the hands. Get underneath it and pull that up and over. Okay, so we've done some folding, so we've helped to stretch it out, build more like gluten, redistribute the yeast a little bit, and we'll come back in a little bit and see what happens. Let's go. Okay, we're back in the kitchen. Sleeping Beauty has woke up so she can film me.
Stop.
It's about an hour's gone by, and look what's happened. It's kind of like more poofing, bubbling. So I'm going to do another set of folds and stretches. So Rachel, come here, show the folds and the stretches. So you kind of get under the bowl. I'm not like sticking my fingers in. I'm going around the sides, not to puncture the dough, and pull it up and give it a nice stretch out like that. Flip it over. Rotate the bowl 90 degrees. Get under there. Notice how compared to last time, it's doing a lot better. It's not like tearing as much. The dough is pretty cold in my hands. I might put this outside so it rises a little bit quicker, just to speed things up a bit. But yeah, so you do that 4 times, rotate 90 degrees. Again, you don't have to do this step. It just helps to build up like the gluten and everything. But if you don't want to do this step, just like let it rise for a good like 4 or 5 hours and to skip all this. But I'm showing you the whole process today. Okay, it's now like 12:45, so it's been another hour since the last fold, and I moved it outside just because it was going a little slow. The dough was kind of cold, and actually, you can see here I've got some bubbles popping up. Got one there. That's a good sign. It means all those holes are forming. You can see when I jiggle it, it's kind of jiggly and wiggly. What I'm gonna do is do one more set of folds and maybe wait another half hour, 45 minutes, and then I might be ready to start like the proofing. So yeah, this is kind of what you're looking for. A good sign, a lot of bubble and frothy. It feels nice and light and airy. Again, there's no set time for this to happen. It really depends on temperature and how active the yeast is. I'm trying to show you what you're kind of looking for here in the dough. So we'll check in a little bit. Okay, so I've come back out. It's 1:15, so I've given it a half hour. You can see a lot of activity now, a lot more bubbles. I'm going to do one more series of stretch and folds, probably come out here in another half hour. It's nice and warm, so this is going quickly. And then from there, be ready to start proofing. So I'll check back in another 30 minutes. It's been another, I don't know, half hour or so, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'm not sure. It's 1:55. So I think this is almost ready. See how there's like all that bubble? See when I jiggle it, how it's like really frothy and bubbly? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more series of folds, and you're going to see when I pull this, it's just nice and stretchy, it doesn't tear. So yeah, do your 4 folds, 90 degrees, rotation of the bowl each time. And just don't pop any of those bubbles you got going. Then, what we're going to do, hands are sticky. This is the panel music. It's 9 by 13. You can use something smaller and it'll just be a little bit higher or less, but I find that this amount works well. I have a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm gonna put, let's put all of it in. And you use good oil. I really like this one. It's not too expensive. And yeah, just coat that whole pan in the oil. Yeah, there should be quite a lot on there. You could probably do a little less than this. I'm gonna actually pour a little bit back in. because I'm going to use that later. And then what you're going to do is, with a dough scraper spatula thing, get around the side of this and just gently plop it in the pan in the middle. You just want to kind of like coax it out. You don't want to pop any of the bubbles or anything. And yeah, it's gonna sit here now for, I don't know, like 15 minutes just to relax, and then I'll stretch it out in the pan and it'll rise. Go turn your oven on also for 475 degrees. So oven's preheating, so once this is risen, it'll be ready to go. Thank you. Okay, so I'm back inside because it is getting pretty warm outside. This thing's rising quickly. It's been about 15 minutes. So see how it's kind of flattened out? What I want to do now, first I want to make sure none of this is sticking to the bottom. See there? So I'm just going to pull it up and make sure it gets on top of the oil. Just use like quick motions and pulls because it is such a sticky dough. But yeah, just make sure you like get that oil underneath there. So that it's not going to stay stuck to the pan as much. I'm going to go to the other side now. Ooh, it's very warm. Alright, so yeah, try not to pop the bubbles. And what you're doing is just kind of getting under it, pulling a little bit, and that's going to get in the pan. And you want to see it kind of moving freely. It should like move all the way around so you don't have any areas on the bottom that are stuck. It should kind of, think about it like swimming in the pan a little bit. Once you got that, if there's any spots that need to be filled out, just stretch the dough out like gently. Again, don't like put any pressure down to like pop the bubbles, but you just want to spread it in the pan. I might do some more after I put the phone down, but yeah, you kind of want it to look like this. So it's now going to sit in the pan. We're going to let it rise or let it proof in the pan for, I don't know, half hour or so in a warm area. And it's going to poof up a little bit more, and then we'll be ready to like top it and throw it in the oven. So oven's at 475 there, heating. So yeah, let's let this go. I'm going to put it back outside where it's nice and warm and see where it goes. Okay, so it's been like an hour that this has been proofing. It's now 3:13. Sorry about the noise, the vent fan's on. So as you can see, we got some bubbles. It's kind of poofed up a little bit. Last step is I'm gonna put a little bit more of the oil that I had on top and just kind of gently using my hand to kind of work that over the top. You don't have to do, oh, fan just went off. You don't have to do this step. I just think it helps. And then we're gonna put some holes in it. So just use like your fingers. Try to keep them wet and poke down. You should feel them like kind of squish down into the bread a little bit, which means, or into the dough, which means that it's risen. So we're gonna make some holes there. Let me just wipe my hand, and then we're gonna top it. I use this is that everything but the bagel from Trader Joe's that I was using in North Carolina. So I'm going to sprinkle that on one half. On the other half, I love this Maldon sea salt flakes. I think this is like the thing to use. But you can also use kosher salt or table salt if you want, and just sprinkle some of that. But you can put whatever you want on it. You could put herbs or rosemary, which I guess is an herb or whatever. And then just going to quickly open the oven and pop this in. Alright, it's in the oven. We're going to let that go, I don't know, maybe like 25 minutes or so. We'll check it. Okay, so I actually lied. I'm going to check this after 20 minutes, not 25, just because I saw it getting nice and brown. And yeah, look at that. That's looking pretty good. Nice springy crust. It's still cooking. I'm going to give this a little bit more. You could probably be done now. If you like to have more browning like I do, I'm going to put in a little bit more. But for you guys, this is probably the sweet spot. So just keep an eye on it when you bake. And yeah, let it cool for a little bit, and then you can cut it open. And there you go. That's focaccia. Good luck. Happy baking.